What up, folks? What it do? Welcome to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. Yeah, with your boy, Mike Goodwin, man, the bow tie comedy. So we back at it, rocking and rolling. And by the title of the podcast, we're going to jump right in with the best advice ever. So since I've started season 3, the advice I kicked off with was the advice from the Texas A&M coach, Coach Buzz Williams. Shout out to the Texas A&M Aggies because they made the NCAA tournament. Matter of fact, 14 teams out of the 16 teams of the SEC made the tournament. You want to guess which team was one of the two that didn't make it? Yeah, my team. We followed a record-breaking season. Last season, I don't remember the record, but we had like 26 wins. 26 wins. We doubled at least the SEC wins, I think, in a year. And now we're at the bottom of the barrel. We was up, and now we're down. Now, I'm a little optimistic. I'm very optimistic, number one, because I think Lamont Paris is a really good coach. Matter of fact, this year, if you don't think Lamont Paris is a good coach, you haven't been paying attention at all. Because the team that we had should not have been competitive. This is, I forgot one of the commentators, like, this is the worst 10. This is the best 10-12 team in the country. Are we 10-12? It's a bad record. We're a good team, bad record, right? So once we get some talent in this joint, we'll be rocking and rolling. But 14 of the 16 teams made the March Madness NCAA tournament, which kicks off this week. I don't do the brackets. I suck at brackets. My brackets are historically bad. I mean, they first off, I really don't have a gauge of 64 teams. I really honestly have a gauge of about 7 teams at max. And one of those 7 has to be South Carolina. And the other 7 are probably teams in the SEC. So I probably have a decent gauge of Duke. Duke's not in the SEC, so I watched some Duke games this year. I have a pretty good feel for Alabama, Auburn, Texas. So that gives me 4. South Carolina's 5. Clemson. I watched a good bit of Clemson basketball, hoping they would lose, but they've done a lot of winning. And Memphis, maybe. You know, a lot of people are poo-pooing on Memphis. I think Memphis may go on a nice little run. I don't know, because my bracket's always trash. But for me to look at 64 teams, 65 teams, and my brackets are historically bad. Matter of fact, I think I even made an effort last year of like, hey, let me look at other teams and who they played, and nah. So we're going to sit this one out. We're just going to enjoy the festivity. Coach Buzz Williams, at the end of the Texas A&M Missouri game this year, he gave advice. He was probably talking to students at the time, and especially the students that were in the room, which were sports writers, journalists that were in the school of journalism. And he basically gave them 4 things that he wished someone would have told him early in life. So today's best advice ever. Go ahead and play that, Jeremy.
3. Over the next 10 years, build as many relationships as you can, comma, and learn to connect the dots between those relationships.
Yeah, there you have it. There you have it. Over the next 10 years, build as many relationships as you can and learn to connect the dots between those relationships. That's a tremendous piece of advice. I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known, especially in college, man. I don't think I understood the value of relationships because I have long lasting and pretty good relationships with the people that I have relationships with. But the idea of build as many relationships, I wasn't doing that. Like, matter of fact, not only was I not building relationships, I might have been creating enemies. I might have been creating individuals that had no goodwill towards me. I mean, I vividly think about this dude, man, from college, Cliff. If anybody knows Cliff, tell Cliff I'm bad. My bad, man. I'm sorry, man. Cliff, I can still see it. So Cliff was a guy that went to college with me. Cliff was a local. So Cliff was from Greenwood. I was an orientation leader one particular summer, and I'd seen the boys all the time. Like, this is my sophomore year probably. So I'd seen Cliff for a year. Like, a lot of the Greenwood guys would find their way to campus. There's a contingency of guys from Greenwood that probably never took a course at Lander, but they were always on campus. And for whatever reason, I was under the impression that Cliff was just a cat hanging out on campus. So here I am. I'm telling you, I remember this. Here I am, an orientation leader. We had these outside basketball setup, like hoops. And it was basically for the freshman students that were coming in. And I remember, like, I took the ball from Cliff. Like, Cliff was about to shoot. And I was like, bro, what are you doing? And I embarrassed this guy, man. I took the ball from him. I'm like, yo, man, what are you doing? I this for the upcoming freshman students. And my man was. Now, he had a group with it. And again, I'm not trying to rationalize. I'm not trying to shirk responsibility. I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. But Cliff was on, he would come to orientation with like his boys. I think in this kind of thing, it was one of those fun day, field day type things. We got the cookout. I don't think we had no DJ. Lander wasn't doing it like that. But we might have some music playing. There was some, again, I said some movable rims. It was like a festival type atmosphere. So I'm certain Cliff called some of his partners and said, hey, man, come on up to camps. Because there's always, that's one of the things that it probably drew a lot of young men to Lander. There were always a lot of young women. I think the number, I don't remember but there was a number. Like, we were outnumbered 7-4. I don't know. I don't know what the number was, but I know it was a pretty significant number. And I can imagine my man was like, yo, we got this field day thing. Come on out and kick it. And I embarrassed that dude, man. And I feel horrible. And that's been 20 years ago. That's been 2 decades. I don't know if I ever told that dude I'm sorry, but I think about it. I think about it when I see his wife on Facebook. I think about it when I go to Greenwood. I think about it when I'm trying to sell tickets to my comedy show. I'm like, bro, I just wasn't, again, I was in college especially. If you knew me, was to love me, but I wasn't trying to be friends with everybody. I wasn't trying to be friends with everybody, and I don't know where that came from. That just was and I was friends with a lot of people. It wasn't like I wasn't. I was very, one of the things I did when I heard that piece of advice, I thought about myself, and I didn't connect the dots. So I'm The first part I kind of do. I don't do as many as it, build as many relationships you can. I don't do as many, but I do a lot. I network. I make connections. I try to be a person, a resource that's available. But what I have not done is connect the dots, because I don't know if I marvel. I used to marvel. I'm thinking about 3 people right now that I'm friends with each of these individual people, but it would be very difficult for me to get 4 of us in one location. I think 3 people would be fine, but everybody, like, there would be, like, I had those type of relationships. I could hang out with this person, but I couldn't bring this person. I hang out with this person, but I couldn't bring that. So I had a lot of those, but I did not do a great job of connecting the dots between the relationships. That's the best, man. That's some great advice. Not only should you establish relationships, but you should work to connect dots. Oh, my man, he's in real estate. I know this banker. I should introduce them. Like, I don't know what will come out of it. I don't know what would happen, but it would be a great connection to say, hey, this is my guy. This is my other guy. These 2 guys should meet, right? And I think that's something that to be more mindful of, especially for me going forward. But to get this information, like I said, if he was a younger person, man, my college experience, especially, and again, I'm on the other side of this, where I'm looking out as an entrepreneur. I'm looking out as someone who benefits from the bigger my network is. The more followers I have, the bigger my reach is, the better. So now if Cliff was a friend, or at least a fan, or a person that, like, yo, that's my dude from college, I have goodwill extended to where, I think at the time they lived somewhere in North Carolina. So my man, if we were good, would post my videos on his page in North Carolina, tell his network of people, hey man, this cat from college I know, super funny. Y'all should check him out. He's coming to town, right? Now, I bet you that man would never show up at the show. Over my dead body, right? And I'm thinking primarily from a business perspective now, because I didn't have that perspective when I was in college. I wasn't trying to sell anything. I wasn't trying to establish goodwill. I wasn't trying to be a nuisance either. I wasn't trying to be a bully or someone who was not displaying or contributing to the harmony of the campus. I just was like, hey man, I'm thinking of a song now that's very not PG, but you got down with the people that you got down with, and I think that was a tremendous flaw from how I came along. The divisions of just goofy stuff. You East Coast, I'm West Coast. You from uptown, I'm from downtown. Just goofy. Just, I like green, you like blue. You a Sigma, I'm a Nu. Like, goofy stuff. Like, people actively were dividing each other unnecessarily. Like, life's challenging enough. Life's difficult enough. There's no need to contribute to the separation of good folks. Good people want to hang out with good people. So shout out to Coach Buzz Williams for the best advice ever. Also, like I said earlier, not today, but in earlier podcasts, I used to talk about being on the road, and I tell you, the listener, where I just came from, but I'm switching it up, especially this month, because I'm not on the road. This month, I'm rehabbing. I'm re-energizing. One thing interesting too, and this has nothing to do with people, it's like my mindset is how I see things, and it's maybe the narrative I've created. So I'll talk to a friend of mine. Somebody hit me up and they be like, yo, what's up, man? What's up? And I'm a phone, if I can answer the phone, I'm gonna answer the phone. If you call me, we're in relationships, I'm gonna answer. If I don't answer, I will call you back or we will connect. I'm not the blow you off Hollywood guy, right? So I'll answer the phone if I'm in the airport. I answer the phone if I'm on a tour, but like it doesn't really matter to me. Somebody's calling that has my number, I'm going to talk to them. So often, this is what I've been finding recently, and I don't know if I feel away. Well, I guess I do feel away. So I'll get a call for someone, buddy of mine. Hey man, what's up? What's up, man? Chilling. So where you at in the world, right? You on the plane, you in San Diego, they'll just say, where you at? And I'm like, oh no, I'm in the crib. And I feel like it's a letdown. I don't know if my friends feel that way, but when I was like, oh yeah, nah, man, I'm a crib. And then I wouldn't make this comment, but I think the next thing they'll say, oh, when your next show, right? Like success is connected to me not being in Colombia. Like, hey man, I'm in Colombia a lot. Like I know it looks or appears to be that I'm just jet setting, wheeling and dealing. And I am. There's moments where nice little flurries, like, yo, I'm in 3 cities in 3 days and all this type of thing. But I did find it to be a little interesting when somebody be like, man, where you at in the world? I'm at the crib. Ah, man, when you back out again? And maybe they just having regular conversation. But in my mind, you have to be careful because you start playing those mind games with yourself. Like, dang, man, I'm not grinding. I'm not putting in the work. I'm not being all that I can be. I'm just out here slacking because I'm home with my family, being present father and husband. I should be on the road in a hotel room getting ready for a gig, right? So that's just a little odd. But I was talking about being on the road, and this month, not on the road. But I do want to highlight places that I have been on the road recently. One of the places that I've been on the road was Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I remember the night I did a night in Murfreesboro. Matter of fact, I did a let's say Friday night in Murfreesboro. I did a Thursday night in Nashville. So I didn't know this at the time. I thought Murfreesboro was his own entity. Nah, Murfreesboro is a suburb of Nashville, which I just was like, yo, that's Murfreesboro. And I think, and don't quote me on this, but I'm thinking Murfreesboro is 40 minutes away. So for and my reference point is always Columbia. So Columbia is not the best reference point because Atlanta is very similar to that. So you could be from Dinwiddie or you could be from Alpharetta, but that's the suburbs of Atlanta, all these different spots. Well, I guess Murfreesboro is similar in that regard, where it's a suburb of Nashville, which I was not under the impression of that was the case. But I found out that day. I found out because I had to be there. I think we were doing 2 shows that particular night. Maybe a show at 7 and a show at 9, something like that. So in most cases you need to be there an hour before, but sometimes they'll slide. I've talked about this sound check stuff. Folks will try to give you like this early sound check, like sound check is 4:30, but the show don't start to 7. Doors don't open to 6:30. Like, why am I doing sound check at 4:30? Well, in some cases that is the good, because it's a band and they got to do a real sound check. My sound check is not real. Like my sound check, somebody could fill in for me for a sound check. I don't have cues and I don't have, hey man, let's bring the lights up here and then right here. This is when I go to the left side of the stage and then I need to put the red filter on. Like that's not what I'm doing out here. If the mic works when I walk out there, then I'm good. So why are we doing the sound check 2 hours and a half? But a lot of times some organizations will facilitate a sound check. Make sure you get there. They want you to. They want to see you. They, pay this money. They done advertise. They want to make sure you in the building. I'm like, I'm gonna be in the building. There's only been one time building when I was supposed to be in the building. So they got the super early sound checks, right? Well, Murfreesboro, man, the traffic from Nashville to Murfreesboro on a Friday afternoon about 4:30, 4 o'clock. I may have left at 4 because I know it's like 40 minutes. It was atrocious. It was absolutely trash, like your boy says, right? But I learned that day. Interesting things about Murfreesboro. A few interesting things I found. They were the state capital. They were the state capital from 1818 to 1826. I want to know why they lost it. Like, what happened? How did Nashville sneak and trick you out? Did they do a Jacob? They tricked his brother out his birthright. Was that Jacob? They tricked his brother. What happened? Why did these boys lose the state capital ranking? Did they graduate a class of freshmen that didn't pan out? They had McDonald's All American, didn't really turn out, didn't take them to the promised land. They got unseated. They got upset by the Cinderella of Nashville. How do you lose being the state capital? And it was like 1818. I'm talking about this was back. This is back. So what y'all was out here doing? We think we gonna move on from this scenario. So I would be interested if you know. I probably need to do some research. How did they lose the state capital? Shout out to Murfreesboro, which is affectionately known as the borough, which I really like. I wish I would have got a T-shirt of the borough. I was a very surprised. Population in Murfreesboro is 165,430 folks. That's what Wikipedia said. Like I'm typically thinking like Murfreesboro. I knew there was a college there. Now, so this is what I was getting to before. There's a soft spot in my heart for Murfreesboro, and I wasn't all the way clear of why. So I was doing some research, and Murfreesboro had a coach that came from South Carolina, Rick Stockstill. And I thought that was the reason. It wasn't the reason. I was like, yo, the coach, they used to be our quarterback coach under Spurrier, something. I thought that was a connection. It wasn't a connection. The connection why I felt a very warm and fuzzies for Murfreesboro was because when I worked at Heathwood Hall, we had a football player he was the best in Skeezer, which is the South Carolina Independent Athletic Association, something like that. Skeezer. By a young man by the name of Brandon Gett. Phenomenal. I think he was just a tremendous athlete. He played football, he played basketball. I don't know what Brandon did in the spring. Brandon might have played soccer or baseball. But he was the quarterback, like the state championship winning quarterback. He was the real deal, man. Real deal, Holyfield. Matter of fact, he's an educator. Currently, I think he's a principal, and we actually have daughters. Which is wildness. We both have daughters that are graduating from high school this year. Now, I'm easily 10 years older than Brandon. I'm probably 13 years older than Brandon. But he and I both have young daughters that will be graduating from high school. And his daughter actually was in my daughter's class until they moved within a year. But Brandon Gannon got offered a scholarship to play football at Middle Tennessee State, which is in Murfreesboro. And I don't even think he got a full ride. I think he was one of those preferred walk-on type deal. Well, I think he went there and played or was there for a year, but I think he ended up transferring back to South Carolina and played at Newberry College. And I think he had an excellent career. But Brandon was one of the first guys or students that I worked with that was was an athlete of prominence, somebody, that were getting offers. I can probably count on my hand the number of athletes that from Heathwood at the time that were getting college opportunities. We had a lot of students, we had a lot of players, but not, that next level. That was not. So yeah, shout out to Murfreesboro. I was doing a little research and did see Murfreesboro out here wilding a little bit. A little wilding. In June of 2023, they had a ban on public homosexuality. A straight up ban, indecent. They said that was inappropriate behavior in 2023. Yo, and it was approved. Like, this is an ordinance. You can't be out here being publicly homosexual. They said it was repealed in like December of 2023. Yo, Murfreesboro, what is going on over there, man? What are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? Shout out to Bucket City. That's what they're doing. Bucket City, Murfreesboro. All right. Coming to the end of this podcast. One of the things I said I was going to do more is talk about these jokes. Still working on that Armstrong, on that Franklin Armstrong. But I do have I'm at the beginning stages of this joke about Costco, Sam's Club. Like, I must admit, man, we recently had a Costco membership. I go into these places, man, and so I think, let me give you some context. My first job was at a grocery store, Bilo. I don't even know if any Bilos really existed. But Walter from the produce, Walter, man, Bilo. That was my introduction into working business, right? And that was a grocery store, a standard size grocery store. Man, I go into Costco's, it's like 3 Walmart or 3 Bilos in one. And it's just like, yo, it's so many, like, who are these people here? Like, there's never a time when I will, and I've been to Costco that much. I'm not going there on a regular basis, because when you go, you drop in some coin. Like, I went in there and got 4 items for $70. 4 items. I mean, no bag or nothing. $70, my boy. So I don't just be over there, but they in there selling speakers and headphones. I mean, there's not any wine, cigars. I just, who are these people that are in Costco? And it's ideal for homeschool people at homeschool. I know they get their Costco on, man. I just know they Costco it up. And people with big families, I'm sure they Costco it up. But who are these? I think even maybe like, I think about, because when I worked at Bilo in Camden, there was a woman that had a store that wasn't the grocery store. So maybe like a neighborhood store. And she would stock the stuff. And I didn't think she got like tax exempt type situation. So if you got that going on, if you are, you live in Swansea or Sherraw, or you live out here in Batesburg, Leesville, and you got your little country store, you run down to Costco to fill it up. I get that, but I just, on the regular, who are these couples just in Costco, yo? It's too. The buggies are big. Like, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. And I am not a self checkout guy. Like, I'm the kind of guy, I'll stand in line, man. You checking me out, but not at Costco. Nobody. You'll be in there an extra hour and a half. You standing behind a whole university. Are they buying food for the University of Virginia? What is happening? So I'm working on that Costco bit. I think there's more than meets the eye with that Costco. So y'all stay tuned for some Costco. I think the homeschool and the big family, that's a good angle. Man, every time I go in Costco, I feel like I have no business in here. and I don't know the rules. I feel like, hey, can we have like an orientation? I don't know. Like my wife told me I need to go get a membership card. So I went, but I tried to go in the door and the guy like, where's your card? I was like, no, I'm here for that. Well, you got to go over there. Then I go over there. But I'm thinking I'm just going to slip into the program. But they like, nah, you got to go back out, scan your card. Then you ring up your groceries, but you got to put your card in. I'm like, hey, man, I guess you learn trial and error. You walk out, you got to give them your card or your receipt. Just like, man, nobody told me this stuff. Maybe I should go to Costco website and say new members. And they ain't got no new members class at church. They got new members. You join a fraternity. They got new members. They got neophytes. They teach you what you're supposed to know. Not at Costco, man. You just pick it up like basic training. Hey, man, pay attention to everybody else. You'll figure it out. So shout out to Costco and this joke I'm working out. And last but not least, man, let me do a little fit Mike versus fluffy Mike. Shout out to Jeff Adams. Jeff Adams, thank you, man. Jeff Adams listens to the podcast. Matter of fact, he listened to the podcast and then he went and left a comment on my Facebook page that had nothing to do with the podcast. But I thank you, Jeff. But Jeff was like, yo, I listened to the podcast and I was talking about Fit Mike, Fluffy Mike. And Jeff had just said he joined Weight Watchers. This is like a praise report. This is what Christians call it. This is a praise report. But Jeff joined Weight Watchers back in June. He said he was around like 225, 230. Jeff said he weighs 180 now. Man, can we give Jeff shout out, round of applause, man? Give him the air horns. 285, my bad. Yeah, 185, not 285. It'd be like, we should not be giving you the air horns if you go from 230 by joining Weight Watchers. You go up to 285, but on 50. Give me 50 pounds, baby. Okay, so shout out to Jeff, and he basically, he kind of was like, hey Mike, Weight Watchers work for me. You should check it out. It helps me, figure out what to eat. And I'm gonna tell you, this has been my reason. I've joined Weight Watchers, and I said it. I think I said this in the message when I responded. I joined Weight Watchers. Matter of fact, that was the first thing I did. If I go back, and I need to remember what I already told y'all, but I started struggling with weight when I got married. I found my thing, the Weight Watchers. I was cleaning out a desk, and I found like I joined Weight Watchers. I was like, at this point, I had gotten to 208. So I was like, hey man, this is too big. So I joined Weight Watchers and I lost, and I was like 199. And then if you fast forward, I think I kind of gained 10 every time. I was like, I went from like 208 to 220 to 240, 230, 240. That's kind of been progression. My issue, Jeff, wasn't, I did Weight Watchers. I did Weight Watchers. I did Orange Theory. I've done HIIT training, kettlebell. But I've never done it to do anything but to lose weight. I'm like the guys in the relationship that like cheat on his girl. He gets caught. He cries, and I'm so sorry, and I won't do it again. He stops for a little while. They get back together, and then he does it again. That's how I am with food. I'm in a toxic relationship. I never want to not cheat. I just don't want to get caught. That's how I am with food. I'm not that way in relationships. I'm not a cheater. I'm not a cheater. I know one of my buddies that listens to he gonna feel like I'm talking about him. I'm not a cheater. I wasn't your boyfriend. I'm just available. I was a community participant in love. Yeah, man. Hey, I'm not gonna tell you my girl and none of that. Like, hey man, if you want to deal with me, deal with me. And if you don't. So I'm not a cheater. Just wasn't my MO. That's not how I move. But I cheat with the food. And I break up to make up. So I never learned. I mean, I got some tips and tricks and like, oh, let me get some carrots and there's 0 points. I don't know how much Weight Watch has changed since now, Jeff, but back then they had like points and you had a little book and you had to track it. Then I know they made a different, I think they had the app and all this different stuff. But I never, anytime I go on my fitness journey, I just want to lose weight. I want to break up to make up. I want to lose this weight so I can go back to my horrible, horrible ways. And I think I finally got to the point of I just don't want to lose weight. I want to be at a particular size and I want to stay there. I don't want to break up to make up. So Weight Watchers, like all those things are great. It wasn't the things for me. It wasn't the things because I wasn't joining them to learn how to change my lifestyle. I wasn't joining them. I remember I did this thing with this guy that, hit full body training, high intensity, kettlebell, ropes, box jumps, all that stuff. We even had like this super restricted diet to lose the weight. And I lost the weight. And then once I lost the weight, I was not doing any of that restricted diet stuff. I was not trying to learn how to maintain my weight. I wanted to lose the weight so I could go back to Bojangles and I could go back to uh, a taste, a little house on the prairie, wherever the food was located. I was going there. I was going to go back and get the cookies, the cupcakes, and the snacks. And now I'm not that. Like I've now made. My pastor talks about, people say they made a 360. It's like, hey man, you back in the same situation you were. I made a 180. So that's why I was in Costco the other day spending $70. I got some protein shakes. I got some beef jerky. I got some protein bars for $70. And that's one thing too, people like, it's too expensive to take care of yourself, be healthy. It's very expensive to pay doctor's bills and to be on medication. So you pick your expensive. You pick your hard, baby. Life's hard. Pick your hard. You can either, oh, it's so hard to find healthy food. And I'm really starting to despise the word healthy. Like I don't like healthy food. I just don't. People are like, oh, that's healthy. You can eat that. Or that's not like, nah, stop. You cut that out. You figure out, like my man Jeff, figure out what are the foods that will give you the nutrients and that you'll be satiated and you keep it moving. So that's a whole nother. And my mindset has been, again, I'm confessing, my mindset has been trash because I have had a toxic relationship with food. I'm not trying to be a good family man with food. I'm trying to get my wife to trust me again so I can go back out on these boy trips. I can go to I can go to the buffet, the AKA the strip club. I can get back in the clubs. I can get back out. I can get back and be meeting and greeting like I'm not a married, committed man out here in these diet streets. So that's been my game. My game has always been don't get caught. Eat crazy, eat, drink, be merry, and then get on that scale. And that scale say, hey man, you can't keep doing this. And I'm like, you're right. Water, chicken, broccoli, rice cakes, 20 pounds gone. Then I'm back getting the pizzas and subs and all the things. Versus, hey man, let's figure out how to have those things in moderation. Let's figure out what our macros and all that type of stuff, right? So now, where I used to be more concerned about the food, once I lose this weight, I'll be able to do this food. Now my thoughts are on the results. Like, oh man, once I lose this weight, I'll be able to wear this jacket or put on these particular jeans and all that type thing. So I'm not more so putting my emphasis on, man, once I slim this thing up, boy, I'll be able to go over there and get that sushi. Denying myself, like, nah, don't go get you some sushi. Like, man, go get you a California roll and a Philly roll and keep it moving. But not me. I want the Gamecock roll added on to that. Let's put another let's put one of those what do they call it when you fry you fry the shrimp and the chicken, and it's got this fried crust on the sushi. Like, hey, bro, no, we're not doing that, my guy. We're not doing that. Matter of fact, I just had there's a hamburger spot in town. I'm recommended highly. Jack Brown. Jack Brown, 5 points. I took a Friday and we got Jack Brown. I got the sloppiest fries, all the things. It had a great burger, and then I got back on my program. So I don't need a cheat day. I need a cheat meal. So I'm starting to really what we've really done. And shout out to my trainer, Jimmy Leach, the fat burning coach. We have it. I have a pretty low calorie diet 5 days a week, and then on the weekend I got some flexibility. So I don't blow my diet. I don't blow my calories, because when I'm out of town, we're gonna be out of town coming up here in the next few days. I'm not gonna be able to eat the things that I have on my meal plan and the portion sizes. But I should be able to get some things and eat, and then have some flexibility. So that's what we're working on now. So shout out to Jeff Adams, man. Congratulations. That's exactly. And my man 50. So he went from 230 to 185. He's 50 years old. So he gives me, man, like, that's like, yes. I would love to be 185. 85 is way too much for me. Not too much. But if I'm 205, man, if I get to 215, 210, and when I get to 220, I'm gonna be like, look at numbers just keep going up, right? I get 220, I'm gonna be like, yes, sir. But we get this thing to 210, 205, man. You won't hear a peep out of me no more. No more Fluffy Mike. Fluffy Mike is gone. So yeah, somebody, if you want to speak to Fluffy Mike, you better get in. You better talk to him soon, because this dude, you will probably not see him, except for on Facebook memories. You will not see him again. But man, this episode went a little longer than I anticipated, but that's fine. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I enjoyed myself, man. I'll see you next time. Hey, check me out. If you know any folks, I'm doing a 2-day humor intensive, April 11th and 12th. You can go to funnyinmoney.com to find out all the information. But again, share this post, like it, let folks know that you enjoy the Best Advice Ever podcast. And man, I'll see you next time. Same bat channel, same bat place. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. And I appreciate it. Y'all be easy. Peace.